Gentlemen, welcome to another Excel video. I am Hassan Fazal and today we are looking at 20 plus reasons why Excel tables are so awesome. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one, which is you can name it. That means every Excel table has a unique name and you can certainly change it if you want to. However, when you create a table, Excel does give it a unique name on its own automatically. Okay. Now, there are several benefits which we will be looking at why and how having a certain name of a table is so helpful in processing and modifying and working with the data in Excel. But at the moment, I think just one example will suffice. If I want to jump to a certain table, I can simply do that by clicking the name in the name box. Okay. Quickly, I will jump to that table and you can see the Excel has selected the data in that table for me also. Okay, moving on to the second reason or trick, which is you can easily resize it. And I can do that by simply dragging this fill handle to the right if I want to add more columns, or if I want to add more rows, I have to simply click and hold, left click and hold, and drag the fill handle downwards. And this will add more rows for me. Alright, let's move on to the third reason, which is structured referencing. Now, it is probably one of the best thing Excel tables has to offer, and that is a second referencing system. Now, most of us are familiar with the default referencing system of Excel, which is if I have to address a certain cell, I have to call upon the column alphabet and the row number. For example, if I want to address this cell, I will call it as D4. And if I want to mention the range, and if I want to mention a range, I will name the first cell of the selection colon and the last cell of the selection. This completes the range mention or range reference in my formulas. However, in Excel tables, it's super easy. Let me show you how. Suppose I want to calculate the sum of all the costs in this column. Now, one way to do it is in as per the referencing system that we already know, I will type in sum, and I will mention F15, colon and F20. This gives me the range in which I have the values of cost, and if I press enter, it gives me the total sum of this column. Now let's see what happens if I want to use structured referencing system to calculate the same total. So I will start the same way, sum, and see what happens. I will make the selection like this and see the moment I have selected the whole column, it has changed instantly into words. Now, what does this means is that I want to calculate the sum of total cost column of profit percent table. Let me repeat that again. In this formula, I am calculating the sum of all the values in total cost column of profit percent table. See how easy it is to understand just by looking at the formula. And if I press enter, it gives me the same sum as I had it before. Now look, here by looking at this formula, I don't understand what this is and what am I summing up. But here, I absolutely clearly understand that I am calculating a sum of total cost column of a specific table that has a name profit percent. Okay, we will be exploring more benefits of having structured references as we go through this video. Moving on to reason number 4, which is calculated column. Absolutely awesome. Now, usually when you have to apply a formula in the whole column, and Excel will not be able to realize or recognize that you want to replicate the same formula to the whole data range downwards. Now watch what happens if I put a formula in the column of table. I want to calculate the revenue, total revenue. I will simply multiply units sold with per unit selling price. Now watch closely. If I press enter, it inserts the formula instantly for me without taking any further step. Moving onwards, reason number 5, endless table styles. You can style your table in any way possible. I already have an example here where I have formatted the table in a way that it has skipped one row and then formatted 3 rows and then skipped one row and then 3 rows again. So this pattern will repeat itself on its own automatically as you expand or shrink the data. Now in simple data range, you have to adjust the formatting every time you expand or contract your data. But with Excel tables, you have to do it once and forget about it. Reason number 6, filter independently. Now another one of my favorite that Excel has to offer. Now consider yourself that you are a data analyst and you are working on a worksheet that has data adjacent to each other. I want to sort or filter this data, but I have the filter and sort option applied here already. Now watch what happens. If I want to apply filter and sort option or buttons on this data, I will first of all have to disable the filter and sort options on this data range because it is adjacent to this one. Okay, see, now I can apply it over here. But if you have the data in Excel table, even if it is adjacent to each other, this option is enabled once and you can process your data the way you want all the time. You will not have to repeat the process again and again just because the data ranges are adjacent to each other. Okay, moving to reason number 7, and that is a dedicated row of formulas. With Excel tables, you have the option of having a dedicated row which is called total row. You have to enable it if it's not already enabled. And you can calculate the total, average, count, or many other things by simply clicking the drop down arrow. For example, if I want to calculate the average of a budgeted sales, I can do that easily. If I want to calculate the count, 5. If I want to calculate the sum, 7035. So it's super easy. And this is all possible because I have the data in Excel table format. Moving onwards, reason number 8, which is remove duplicates. I know we can remove the duplicates in any data range by going into the data tab and remove duplicates option. But this option is available by default in Excel table. So let's see how this can be accessed. First of all, I have to change it into a table. Done. And once I have done it, I will go into the contextual tab and here it is, remove duplicates. Now it is asking me in which column I want to check for duplicates. I want to check for duplicates in products column. Okay, so I will unselect the other columns, press OK, and it will say that I have removed one duplicate value. All right. Awesome. Excel tables are amazing. Now let's have a look at trick number 9, which is show or hide header row. While formatting the Excel table, sometimes we need to merge two headers of two columns in Excel table. But because every column of a table have to have a specific unique name of its own in order to write formulas or use structured referencing, it does not allow us to merge two cells together. So in order to do this, one of the easiest ways is to hide the header row, which we can simply do it by going into contextual tab and uncheck header row. And now I can type in the name the way I want. For example, if I want to have it named as sales and I want to merge these two cells, I can do that easily. Okay, and if I want to turn this back on, I mean the header of this table, you see automatically adjusts itself downwards to include the original header row of the table. Even after having the Excel tables and few limitations with it, we can somehow work around easily by hiding the header row. Now let's have a look at trick number 10, which is converting Excel table back to normal data range. It's quite easy. Have an active cell inside the Excel table and go to contextual tab, click convert to range. It will ask you if you really want to convert table into a normal range, press yes, and then you can see that although it looks like Excel table, the formatting is just there. All the features of Excel table has been pulled off or stripped off of this data range. Moving onward to reason number 11. Now this is again about working with the data. You can select column, the whole data, or the table itself very easily and quickly using the mouse. For example, if I hover my mouse cursor just above the heading of a column, it will change it into a cursor pointing downwards, and if I left click once, it will select the content of that column, and if I click it again, it will select the header as well. Same goes for the row. If I hover the cursor at the end or corner of the row, it will change to right pointing cursor, and I can left click to select the row. Same way, if I move my mouse at the left top corner of the table, it converts to diagonally pointing downward cursor, and if I left click once, it will select the whole content of the table, and if I click once again, it will select the whole table. So selection with the table is super easy even with the mouse, and you cannot definitely you cannot do that with the normal range. Moving onward to reason number 12, which is table header replace default column headers. Now if you have a really long table like this one, just imagine for a moment that it was a normal data range, and I know the names of the columns when they are appearing in front of me, but as I scroll down, they disappear behind the default column names of Excel. Now watch what happens if I have an active cell inside the table. Boom! The default column headers of Excel are now changed to Excel table header row. See that? It's so convenient to have a really large data which is flowing vertically downward in thousands of rows, and I can know in which column I am working because it replaces the default header rows for me. Now let's have a look at trick number 13, which is ease of navigation inside Excel table. For example, I have an active cell which is the first cell of the table. If I press tab, it moves to the right, and if I press again, it skips to the right cell again, and if I press it repeatedly, it reaches the end of the table. Now watch what happens if I press the tab again, it moves to the second row, and this pattern is repeated until it reaches the last cell of the table. And now once it reaches the last cell of the table, and if I press the tab again, it basically is giving the command to Excel to insert a new row for me in Excel table. So you see, it's not just the ease of navigation, but also if you want to populate the table, it's super easy while working with tables. Now let's have a look at trick number 14, which is again another powerful functionality offered by Excel table. Usually, if you move your normal data range from one place to another, especially to another worksheet, the formulas dependent on that normal data range are not going to work majority of the times. But if you have Excel table and any formula dependent on that Excel table, you can move the Excel table inside that worksheet and even to another worksheet without any problem, especially if you are using structured referencing system while writing formulas, because we are calling the table by its name and its location independent. It can be in any worksheet, anytime, anywhere in that workbook. I will have to simply call the table by its name and refer to its specific column to process the data. Okay, so it's much more reliable to work with Excel tables using structured referencing system, and even if you have to move the data, you will not have to worry about it at all. Now let's have a look at trick number 15, and that is you can print a selected table easily. If I want to print this table, I need to have an active cell inside it. Go to File, Print, and from here I need to select Print Selected Table, and you can see that it is printing just the table that I have an active cell inside. So it's more of a you can say miscellaneous benefit Excel tables that Excel table has to offer to Excel users. Okay, moving onward to reason number 16. Use tables as data source. Just imagine for a moment that you have a normal data range and you have a pivot table based on that range. Now, if that data range gets populated, you have to reselect the data source every time in order to adjust your pivot table. But with Excel table, you can add more rows, you can add more columns, you can even delete rows, and it will auto adjust itself in pivot table. You just have to click refresh button. You don't have to reselect the data source range. Okay, moving onward to reason number 17, which is custom format first and last column. Again, it's more about the formatting. In case of Excel table, this formatting option is available by default easily in contextual tab, and you can give a specific color to the first and last column easily by simply checking and unchecking the columns. And in case of normal data range, it's very cumbersome because you have to specifically select that length of the column that you want to color, and if the data is changing, if it is increasing or decreasing, you will have to adjust it again by recoloring the whole data range. Moving onward to trick number 18, that is create dynamic data ranges. I have already hinted upon it that you can use Excel table to provide dynamic input to any output, for example to pivot tables, data validation lists, or even Power Queries, etc. But let's have the understanding of how dynamic, what it actually is, and what kind of benefit we can get if we have that data range that can dynamically adjust itself with increasing or decreasing data set. Okay, so what I want is I want to show the name of these products as list in this cell. Okay, now for some reason, I don't know why data validation list does not take structured referencing names. You cannot use structured referencing system inside data validation input bar. Okay, but we do have a workaround. Let's run that as well. So I will go to define name. I'll just give it any name like product list, and in the input I'll simply give the values of this column. Press OK. Now I have defined the name. Now I have this cell selected to show the list of names. I'll go to data tab, click the data validation button and list, and here I will simply give the name that I have just defined. Press OK, and now I have the names that are mentioned here. Now watch what happens if I add more. Product 2, product 3, it will automatically include these new names also. See that? I do not have to do anything. It has saved me tons of formulas that are really complex to remember and most of the time don't work for users. Okay. So I have eliminated much of the complexities and limitations just by using Excel table as my input data range. All right. Moving onwards to trick number 19, which is I can use it to make pivot tables. Okay. And everyone loves pivot tables. Now, what these pivot tables are and how do we make them? Basically, pivot tables are used to prepare reports. Okay. For example, here at the moment, I have the customers along the column and I have the salesperson that are serving, and it's giving me the total revenue that has been generated by each salesperson to a specific customer. Okay. And if I want that what product is being sold to what customer, I have the names of the product instantly just by simply dragging and dropping the elements of Excel table. So pivot table is going to be the reason of discussion in another video, but definitely you can use Excel tables to make pivot tables, especially to provide dynamic data range to the pivot table. All right, moving onwards to trick number 20. Again, we are talking about using tables as input source to features like Power Queries. Now, what I can do is I can connect the two independent tables that are in two different worksheets, or even in two different workbooks, or even at two different geographical locations. I can use Power Query to connect those two tables and process it the way I wanted. That will be a topic of discussion in another video very soon. Now, moving onward to the last trick, and that is data input form for each table. Yes, every table does come with its own specific inbuilt form that you can use to input data. You don't have to do anything. Every time you create a table, it gets created on its own automatically by Excel. It's just that you have to find it. It's not available anywhere in the ribbon. I don't know why. Now, in order to find it, you have to have the cursor hovering over quick access toolbar. Right click and then click more commands. Select all commands from the drop down menu and you have to find form. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? No, not from form. This one. Click add. Okay, click OK. And now you will have an additional button here. But in order to use this, you have to have the active cell inside this table so that you can have the input form for this specific table. So once I have the active cell inside this specific table, click form and you can see now that you have the product, budgeted sales, actual sales, variance here. And variance column, as it is a calculated one, it will be disabled and it will automatically be calculated for you. Now, if I want to add more products, watch what happens. Product 1, budgeted sale is 1,000. Let's make it 10,000. Actual sales 25,000 and enter. See, it enters the record automatically. Okay, so here you have 21, or in other words 20 plus reasons to love Excel tables. I hope you have enjoyed this video and must have learned something new. If not, everything is new for you already. If you like the video, do give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel because I have a lot more videos coming your way. Thank you and see you next time.